That's fucking scary. It's chill. It's chill. Yeah, baby. What is up, everybody? My name is Chase Reinford, owner of Exile Base. Today, we're going to talk about the Griffis 2. Mainly, the changes we've made, why we made them, and how it compares to the original. To start out, we basically want to make it clear that the Griffis 2 is almost identical to the original Griffis in pretty much all of the characteristics that we all know and love. We didn't want to change anything too drastically because everybody that we spoke to about the original Griffis has loved it so far. No real negative critiques. And I will show you a side-by-side comparison now of John Levon jumping the Griffis 240, the original Griffis, into Griffis Nest, which is the exit that you'll be seeing here in a second. And then me following him with the Griffis 2 260. Now, this is back-to-back jumps, same exact conditions. You'll see the opening of the Griffis 1 and you'll see the opening of the Griffis 2. You'll notice the Griffis 2, the inflation is not only more rapid, but it's more symmetrical across the whole canopy. Everything's becoming inflated very well, very quick, and very smoothly. So that was the big change, is we wanted a prettier inflation. Not that it was for anything more than just aesthetics. It was mainly just because we could do it. So we did it. But let's talk about the 5 vents instead of the 3 that were originally on the Griffis. Obviously, more vents is more construction, takes longer, more labor, but also it adds pack volume. It adds weight because mesh is a lot thicker than the PN9 that we use for the main panels. So with that being said, we didn't want to add more weight and we didn't want to add more pack volume to the Griffis because we wanted a nice blend of lightweight materials, but also durable, long-lasting materials. So to do this, we had to play around a little bit with the leading edge nose construction. The original Griffis 1.5 leading edge, we used mil-spec 4088 type 2 half-inch tape, and it's a very thick tape, and it's quite a bit overkill. It was rated for 500 pounds. So when the Griffis 2, we wanted to use a little bit lighter of a tape. It's a little wider actually, but it's less thick. And so now we've switched to a mil 5038 3/4 inch tape at the leading edge. And this allows us to save on a little bit of weight. It allows us for easier construction at the confluence where all of the tapes meet, but it's still double the strength of industry standard tape that they use for their leading edges. So we thought it was a perfect balance. For those visual people out there, I got some materials. I'm going to show you the difference between industry standard and what we're using on the Griffis 2. So this is mil 5608. It's a very lightweight reinforcement used span-wise on pretty much all of the base canopies out there today, and also your skydiving canopies. It's only got a tensile strength about 100 pounds. We are using this. This is mil 5038, and this has a tensile strength of 400 pounds. Yes, it does weigh more, but we're talking about a few ounces across the board. So in our opinion, the span-wise reinforcements are non-negotiable, especially in the base environment with slider-off openings just being so brutal on gear. All of our tapes are mil-spec'd, PIA-spec'd. They come with test certificates. Each individual batch is tested and it's traceable before we use it on any of our parachutes. And so that just guarantees absolute quality and reliability. And we're using class 1 tapes. Basically, if you do not have a class 1 tape, if you nick the edge of a webbing, it loses its strength by a lot. But because this is class 1 tape, you can nick this edge and it still remains very, very structurally sound. Not 100%, but it's still retaining most of its strength. And that's why we use class 1 webbings on the bridle attachment points, the line attachment points, anywhere that you could potentially see wear. So that is just an extra peace of mind that we use throughout construction, is life critical class 1 tapes, mil-spec'd from an American supplier with test certs included. So just one of the reasons why the Griffis 2 is an absolutely beautiful, high quality parachute. So think about it not as an ultralight canopy or a regular weight canopy, it's just right in the middle. The Griffis 2 is right in the middle. It's a hybrid of heavy duty and light, and we think it's the perfect blend. Now let's talk about the 400-pound Dacron lines that had failed on a different manufacturer's parachute multiple occasions many years ago. We used 600-pound Dacron on the center A, B, and C lines on the Griffis 2. Now the previous Griffis used 600-pound Dacron across all of the lower suspension lines, excluding the control lines. We used 1,000-pound there. But the Griffis 2 now implements a blend of Dacron. We use 525-pound Dacron on the outer line set, and then we use 600-pound on the inner line set. Why do we use 600-pound Dacron instead of a lot of these companies are using 400-pound and 525 blend? We're looking back at history here. We're looking back at why did those other canopy lines fail on the other manufacturer. They claimed it was because the lines were worn and they exceeded the max opening speeds. But we don't think that's an excuse, because this is base jumping and people are going to make mistakes and they aren't going to listen. So that's why we use the 600-pound 525 blend rather than the 525 400-pound blend, because once you do wear out the lines and they do become worn really heavily, you are not getting those rated figures that you think you're getting. That's why, in our opinion, especially for American base jumping, where we're landing in the desert, in the cactus, there's dirt everywhere, that's abrasive to our materials and our lines and all of our gear. So why not just make that gear a little bit more sturdy and durable? And that's what we did by using the thicker line set. And yes, people are like, why do you use such thick lines? It's heavy, yada, yada, yada. Just carry the extra 2 ounces or whatever it might be. The characteristics of the Griffis 2 versus the original are largely the same. We just fine-tuned it, like as far as the riser pressure goes on the rear risers. The original Griffis rear riser pressure was a little bit slushy, it was a little bit sluggish. So we just essentially put a little bit more pressure on those rears. For those of you that like to fly on rears, to turn away from cliffs, or if you have an off heading, correct that. So now that's a little bit more intuitive. But with that, we also changed, like I mentioned earlier, the vents. We added 5 vents versus 3. That was a huge upgrade as far as pressurization goes, and also with the sinkability of the parachute. The Griffis 2 sinks a lot more stably in a straight down elevator configuration versus the original Griffis. So that was another very big improvement, and those are the main changes as far as flight characteristics are concerned. It retains its docile nature. You can do anything you want to the parachute and it's not going to collapse on you. It's not going to try to kill you. It's going to recover in a docile manner as long as you're not super low to the ground and doing stupid stuff. It's a very forgiving parachute. So that's what we wanted. We wanted to keep all of those characteristics that everybody loved and just refine the construction, the weight, the pack volume, and a few of the flight characteristics we knew we could make better. So that's what we did. Another small change we made just on the tail pocket. We added Type 4 tape reinforcement on the tail pocket where the lines are getting pulled out of the tail pocket, because some of the original Griffis tail pockets were showing premature wear from where the lines were extracting. Not a structural or a safety hazard by any means. Now, we've changed the honeycomb material to a non-PU coated material, so you don't have any of that flaking of the coating coming off in the tail pocket. So all future Griffis 2s have just a more refined, better quality tail pocket that's going to last longer. Another really awesome thing about the Griffis is the quality control. We've completely redesigned our quality control system to make sure we are not missing anything, because obviously, as I spoke on before, very important, you got one chance. This is a life-saving product and there can be nothing missed. So we have very, very strict quality control checks with multiple checklists along each stage of production. Each bar tack, each stitch, everything is checked during the construction, and then it goes through a final inspection at the factory. But on top of that, this is my company, these are my friends, this is my family jumping my product. And so the only way that I can sleep at night knowing for sure that nothing goes out without any issues involved is that I am here checking them myself. So basically, every Griffiths after the final inspection at the factory comes here to Montana at my home, and I hang it up and I go over everything. I do a very thorough check of all of the structural components that are critical to the safety of the user and of the parachute itself. You're going to see immediately the quality of these canopies are incredible. Not only that, but the design is incredible. They fly great, they open great, they're reliable, and it's the one canopy I will trust in every single environment that I put it in. Now, that being said, for those of you who are like, we want something lighter, we hike big mountains, we wingsuit, we track, that sort of thing. I do all of those things. I love multi-day missions in the backcountry to get to one exit, right? And so the Griffiths 2 is a little bit heavy for my wingsuit missions. So right now we're working on the Komodo. And the Komodo was originally a completely different beast. It was originally going to be like a sportier canopy, so people that, you know, want to like really swoop and have fun can fly this thing instead of the Griffiths. But then we decided, after many tests, jumps in real world environments, we decided the Komodo doesn't really have a place in the majority of the base world. Like, slider down, the Komodo, I wish I was in the Griffiths every single time, because the Griffiths just excels beyond the Komodo in many disciplines, like glide, for example. The flare is better on the Griffiths, all of these things. And I was just like, you know, we're going to scrap this Komodo idea. We're going to completely change what we're going for. So now the Komodo has been reverted back to the Griffiths 2. It's got the same profile, almost the same trim. It's the same platform, essentially, as the Griffiths 2, but with all of the fat trimmed off. And with that being said, it's only for slider up base jumping. So for wingsuiters, trackers, people that are really, you know, worried about weight and pack volume, that prioritize every single gram that they have on their back when they're hiking up a mountain, that's who the Komodo is going to be built for. It's not released yet, but it's coming very soon. We've trimmed off roughly 2 pounds of weight from the original Griffiths 2 to the Komodo. So if you are like an exclusive slider up jumper, or if you're a base jumper that wants a slider up specific rig, that's what we're building the Komodo for. The Griffiths for everything. You can still wingsuit with the Griffiths 2. You can still do tracking jumps. You can do anything with the Griffiths 2. But for those of you that want a secondary rig, or you're only doing slider up, that's the Komodo. It's still going to fly pretty close to the Griffiths. It's going to be a little bit more sporty, and it's going to love to swoop. It already loves to swoop. But that being said, most of these slider up jumps, you're landing in giant fields in Brento, Lauterbrunnen, and those places. It's not meant for American base jumping necessarily. I jump here all the time. The LZs are really tight. I prefer my Griffiths 2, but I am still going to jump the Komodo here, and I'm still going to do these tight LZs with the Komodo. I'm just going to upsize one because they do fly a little faster than the Griffiths. Probably a few more months till its release. We're just testing all of the new materials that we're using, because we are switching up a lot of the reinforcement tapes to something lighter. We have to brake test everything. We got to do longevity tests on everything. And our lab at the factory has all of these machines to do so, and we're very lucky to have those things at our fingertips to do these brake tests. So we're going to wrap up this video. I hope this helped you better understand the changes we've made. And if you have any other questions regarding like technical details or anything at all regarding base jumping, reach out to us, info@exilebase.com. We don't only build base gear, we also teach classes. We run first jump courses at the Prime Bridge in Twin Falls, Idaho. So if you're an experienced skydiver, speed flyer, paraglider, please reach out to us. Our spring courses are all full, but we have a few more slots open for our fall courses 2025. Thank you guys for watching. Check out the website, exilebase.com. See you on the exit point.